I printed very small weeds and flowers to get sort of a printed frame for photo transfers. And boy, did they turn out nice. Hello, Gelli fans. Sorry for being quiet for a couple weeks. I was busy with taxes. Can you imagine me suffering when I cannot make art for almost 3 weeks because of taxes? Naja, anyway, I had to dive deep into nature to forget that. And I collected some mini spring weeds and microflowers because I had the idea to print a small flowery frame. Can you say that? Flowery? For my small photo transfers. I went into my garden and collected just the tiniest weeds I could find. And I can't tell you their names except for one that is a strawberry, but it was too withered to be printed already. I took my small gel plate, which is 6 by 6 inches, my favorite paint golden open acrylics, which dries slower, and I want to pull the prints with Bristol paper. As usual, you can find all the materials in the info box below. Starting with the green, I ink up just the sides of the plate. I had to find the right amount of paint to use for this, so I expected the first attempts to be failures, and I got them. I take this kind of grass or grain seed heads to start simple. The way I place them on the plate is as if they go around in one direction. Oh, that's not one direction, Tina. There. I am using Deli paper, in German Butterbrotpapier, to take off excess paint and press the seed heads into the paint. The paper is a little stiff and I have to press it strongly around the edges of the grass. I love the Deli paper because it creates shapes into the paint surface that it leaves. But this time I don't like what I see. It leaves too much paint so that the weeds are not visible well because there is no contrast in thickness. So this is what I got, and I'm not happy. But I expected that. And I'll show you all my failures. Another try, this time with a transparent red iron oxide, one of my favorite colors. And again, just painting the sides. Using those seed heads again, but this time I asked myself, is that one direction too stuffily? A word I just learned and I'm happy to apply. So I'm wild at heart. The direction of the heads is not circular but varies. To get rid of the excess color, I'm using a Bristol paper now instead of the Deli paper. But I'm disappointed again. It leaves too much paint on. Hell, this is like I've never done a jelly printing before. What's the matter today? I could, of course, work out the seed heads with a black pencil or so, but I don't like the shape of the frame itself. So next try. The transparent red iron oxide again, and this time with a little residue on the gel plate with a black try that I forgot to press record. Another failure it was. So now this is the final time I'm using those seed heads, and then I want to switch to some other weeds. And I'm using a rice paper now. That is from China. I'll put it in the info box if you're interested. It's not that great anyway because it has some stripes, as you can see, but it's good for a pickup paper. And what I'm trying to do here is to get the edges clean with a baby wipe. But then I thought I'll just take a little more of that paper because it can only consume so much paint. So it's sort of like taking the excess of 2 times. I hope you understand what I'm saying. And the reason I left the other edges covered is because I'm doing this outside and it was quite windy, quite a windy day. So I had to protect the seed heads from flying away. And here you can see it closer. I'm just taking another piece of that rice paper and picking up the residues. And that looks so much better now. It's so much nicer. And pulling that print with Bristol paper. This is the first print I like. Another one of those weeds, I looked it up, it's obviously a sweet woodruff in English. And this has got broader leaves, so I have to make the frame a little thicker, the outside lines a little thicker. And I'm going in with the black now. I am making a much thinner layer now because I know the black quite well and I know it gives a lot of, it's highly pigmented, so it just gives a very good shapes even if it's only thinly layered. It is a bit fiddly to get the woodruff on, and those flowers, they're really so tiny. I don't know if they'll even show, but we'll see. So I'm pressing down the rice paper again, and because the layer is so thin, I don't even have to pick up with rice paper a second time. It works with the first piece of paper. You can see it takes almost everything off. And this is what I like the golden open paints so much, because they just are so highly pigmented and always show every little detail. It's almost like etching ink. And it always stays wet longer, so you don't have to hurry with your print. Here I'm turning this around to see what the upper side should be. I haven't decided on that yet. This needs a little workout, but it's very nice. And I'm happy. Now I'm trying another green one. And I still have the residue on the plants, the black residue. And this is always very nice. I leave the black on the brayer and residues on the gel plate. And then the green just picks up in places the black color. Now the residues on the plants and on the brayer with the regular acrylics, they probably would have dried by now. So I highly recommend the golden open, or if you don't have that, take your acrylics and get a retarder. And that should do the trick too. Yep, I like this one too. You can see there is quite a bit of paint going on still around the weeds, but I like that. And as I wanted it to be a frame. So I'm trying yet another weed. This, I would say it looks like a mimosa, but it's probably not. And anybody who knows, tell me in the comments. So inking up, broadly, but thinly. I'm placing on the mimosa. Actually, the little flower fell off, so I'm using flowers from another weed, or from two other weeds actually. Tiny, tiny yellow flowers that are blossoming open, and some purple flowers that I can only print from the side. And this layer was a little thicker, so I'm using that rice paper 2 times again to get everything, or most of it, off. It's smeared a little bit up there, but this time I'm doing something totally different. I let the slow drying color, I let it dry on the gel plate. because this time I want to pick it up with a second color. There's a little critter visiting. Please don't eat my gel away, little ant. And I'm using the baby wipe to get some extra paint off. When the paint is dry on the gel plate, dry to the touch, I'm coming in with the red iron oxide as a pickup color. And I'm going over the whole page. And I hope it's not gonna turn out too dark for the photo transfer to be visible. And I'm picking that up again with a Bristol paper. I've cut this short, but you should let the paper rest on it for a while for the red color to dissolve the black color and then sink into the paper. So this turned out real beautiful. But you know me, I still have to work this out before I do the photo transfer. It is not very wise because I have all that work before I even know if the transfer will work nicely. But I'm always so excited after the print that I have to work it out immediately. So I'm doing that with a black pencil. And I wanted to say you don't have to use that rather dark red. Of course, you can use white or a beige as a pickup color, or you can just use a binder or a medium, or a primer like gesso. I'm spending a little more time to work out the flowers because they are barely visible. And the mimosa, together with those little flowers that have to be printed from the side, the violet ones, they made up quite a messy muddle. So I have to put some work on that. Just putting shadows to everything. And adding shadows to the other small open flower down there. Barely visible. But that doesn't matter so much, because the photo transfer has to be the center of attention. To get a little more darkness into the shadows, I'm using a fine liner. My favorite fine liner, the Micron pen. Now, some people say that you work out afterwards always, or almost always. That's not very cool, but why shouldn't I do that? I just love to do it. And actually, while I'm doing it, it is more special to me than when I see the result. It is really the making of it that makes me happy. And why shouldn't I do it? I'm not competing with any purist printers. I know there are out there, especially in the YouTube world, there are wonderful printers and they only do one print and they never work anything out. And that is great. But that's not what I want to do. And here I'm giving the whole frame a little shadow with my pencil, but as usual, only to the lower side and to the right, as if the light was coming from the top left. And this is how it looks now, ready for taking a photo transfer. But I also very briefly, I'm gonna work this one out, the only one with the seed heads that I liked, with a fine liner, because I want to print on this one or in this one as well. And this one's very simple, but that's what I like about it. This is a photo I've made recently of my elderly neighbors. Very nice people. And yeah, why not print them? I think it's going to be difficult because that photo I put as much contrast in it as I could, but the contrast really isn't high enough. So I'm expecting the outcome not to be, well, it's going to be a task. And I printed the photo on a laser printer, as this works better for the transfer than the inkjet. And I'm inking up, and I wanna note that the black paint used in a thicker layer on its own is beading a little bit, like dissolving, because it's so fluid. And I kind of, first I thought, well, this is not going to work out. But then I think it really makes interesting things, as you'll see in a bit. I'm taking off the paint around it with a baby wipe. And I want to think about whether I will print it and ruin that one frame or not. As you can see, this is what I meant. The contrast in the photo is not very high, so they both have don't really have a face. But it is interesting because of the beading, because of the dissolving. And in the last moment, I decide I won't print it on the red one, but on this one. Rub it in, turn it around, rub it for a longer while, let it sit a little, which I cut short here. And you can see it's not really turned out that great. So, another try. I made this print a little larger, so I have to rip off some of the clothes. No, don't worry, you're not going to be naked after this. Silly me. Sorry, I forgot to film this part, but I put the black on a little thicker. So this is not beading and it looks a little more promising. And I dare to print it on the beautiful frame. And when I pull the print, well, I'm not very happy about it. Again, you don't see much of the faces, but it's a little better than the last one. So what I'm doing is I want to work this out, taking the photo in front of me and just adding some lines, just hints where the facial features and the hairs are and so on. The eyes are always the most important part, so I'm taking special care here. To work this out is also fun, but I have to say in this case I am a bit disappointed because I like it more when the print gives more of the features and I just have to work out a little bit. But that's how it goes today. You can see there are quite a bit of shadows and they are important for the liveliness. His face is a little easier. Of course, women are always more complicated. Shadows, shadows. Shadows and light. That's all there is to it, really. And I have to add some fine liner too, because I used it in the frame flowers. I have to use it here too. Otherwise the photo would be knocked back quite a bit. The next day I'm thinking this is a bit boring, so I want to add some highlights. This is something I often do when I print on brown paper or gray paper, which always goes wonderfully with a black and white impression. So I'm just working on the highlights, and this makes it really come alive. I also, besides the pencil, I also have this Caran crayon, which is really a watercolor thing. So you could, if you want, the paper is sturdy enough, you could dissolve it with water afterwards, but in this case I want to use it like a pencil. And it's the white is much more intense than the pencil white. And I want to make the flowers stand out a little bit by adding highlights to them too. And what the hell, I'm just getting so carried away. I'm putting highlights everywhere. I almost overworked this one. But it's fine. It serves the impression. It's good. Somehow I find a way to stop myself. So this is it. It's gonna stay like this. Yeah, it's very much worked out. But I think it's nice, and I'm gonna give it as a present to my neighbors. That other one with the beading paint, I don't work it out until the end. Maybe I will finish it sometime. I just want to look at this technique again, and I think I'm going to make a video just about the paint beading and dissolving. What do you think? I think it's so interesting, that effect, that I almost love it more than the other one, which was better as a print. And I think I'm going to make a video about this. Tell me in the comments what you think. And here are 3 other ones I made as frames, waiting for photos to be put in. I love this session and I love the outcomes. Tell me in the comments what you think, or maybe you have some other inspiration for me. And I'll see you next week, hopefully, if I can make it. Bye.